Good morning. Well, let's not even front the fake. It is late evening, all right? We are not going to even fake the front. Listen. What's the young man say? Listen, Linda, listen. Listen, Linda, listen. You know how I do. It's easier for me to go live than it is for me to try to figure this out in a video. Here's what we're doing today. How about that? We're doing it like this. Y'all, every time when you think that there is an opportunity to give somebody grace, they go fuck up the thing. They just mess it up. They mess it up every time. Who am I talking? I am talking about Blake Lively. What am I talking about? For those of you all who have been following this case, you know that one of the questions that we had asked since the case started, since we got the legal documents and all these little different information, when it came to Stephanie Jones giving Blake Lively's team all of these emails, I was first like, well, maybe she voluntarily did this. But she kept saying that, no, I received a subpoena. So the question was, where did you receive a subpoena? Because there was no litigation for this case, apparently, before it was filed in December. Where did you get a subpoena? Baby, this phantom subpoena has been revealed. And honey, it is a clear and utter mess. Cluster F, if you may. Now, I do not know because the way that they did it, I don't know if it breaks any laws or not, but clearly it's a moral and ethical issue going on. So let's do this. Let me bring this to the let me bring this because the Daily News broke this information, but I do want to give a shout out to Without a Crystal Ball, who is here on YouTube. She hunted and hunted until she found this information, baby. And so we're going to go over what the Daily Mail, because a lot of different pundits, the Daily Mail, I guess, has contacted them, talked to them or whatever. But we're getting ready to get into this. Give me one moment. While I still have you and have you captivated, y'all hit that like button and subscribe to this video. So let me get into this. This is a mess. This is a mess. Because, and whether or not you realize that this is a mess, here is the situation. The situation is this. The text messages were key to this complaint. And everyone was like, oh, well, we received it via a subpoena. Who issued the subpoena? Because the information was given before there was an actual legal case filed. Who issued the subpoena? Because the California Civil Rights Department said that they didn't issue a subpoena. Who issued the subpoena? Let's get into it. Let's find out. Let's go over what the Daily Mail has revealed. And this article is written by Josh Boswell and Emma Jones. So let's get into this. Revealed. Blake Lively's super shady legal tactic that set off war for Justin Delboni before he even had a clue. Because why is this so important? This is so important because Blake Lively was receiving all of this bad press. She says it was Justin Baldoni's camp that caused for her to receive all of this bad press, right? So she filed her CRD complaint. Fine. File your complaint. Fine. File your complaint. So when the question was, who issued the subpoena? Nobody knows. So shout out to Without a Crystal Ball. Shout out to Josh Boswell, because we're going to read his article and we're going to read the information because this is critical to this case. So let's start. And I believe I told y'all to hit that like button. But if I didn't, make sure you do. Blake Lively quietly filed a clandestine lawsuit months before her legal war with Justin Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni became public in an apparent plot to seize damning text messages from his publicist. Because again, you didn't go through the proper way of discovery. You filed, oh child, get into this. The filing allowed her attorneys to issue a subpoena for the embarrassing text and then drop the lawsuit, all without Baldoni's team knowing it even existed. So, in other words, let me get this straight so everybody can get can we get on the same page? She filed a lawsuit in New York State court, right, against these John or Jane Does. There's not a single person who she has put forth as a person she's filing this case against. It's all John and Jane Does. She did this so that she can legally file and get a subpoena for the documents that Stephanie Jones, the text messages and all this other stuff that Stephanie Jones then provided to her so that she can sue. So let me tell you this again. This is Pam Entertainment TV. This is how I'm thinking that this happened. I think that Stephanie Jones was pissed off at the fact that Jen Abel, through her new company, because Jen Abel works for Stephanie Jones, Jen Abel quit. She gave her a 6 weeks notice. Stephanie Jones was not hearing that. She got pissed off. She was in her feelings. This is my theory, is that she bebopped and dog walked her tail over there to Blake Lively's team to show them these text messages. Blake Lively's team realizing that they can't use those text messages because they didn't get them properly or in discovery, they filed in New York State court a lawsuit against 1 to 10 Jane and John Does. Once they filed that lawsuit, they had the ability to have subpoena power, so that they gave Stephanie Jones then the subpoena from this bogus lawsuit, because no one knows who they were suing. And Blake Lively used one of her and her husband's businesses, LLC business, to file this lawsuit so that they can then file this subpoena, so they can subpoena, so they can then say Stephanie Jones gave us this information via a subpoena. What they didn't figure out was the fact that everybody on the internet, and this is why we shout out Without a Crystal Ball and other YouTubers, content creators on IG, content creators on TikTok. And as soon as they were able to utilize this subpoena power, they dropped the case out of New York court, because they never thought that anybody was smart enough to ask the simple questions: is, if you have a subpoena, what case does the subpoena correlate with? What case? A mess. Now, so let's go over what the New York Times, Daily Mail has put forth. All right, Blake Lively quietly filed a clandestine lawsuit months before her legal war with It Ends With Us co-star Justin Baldoni became public, in an apparent plot to seize damning text messages from his publicist. The filing allowed her attorneys to issue a subpoena for the embarrassing text and then drop the lawsuit, all without Baldoni's team knowing it even existed. So I went over the sham for y'all. Now, a dailymail.com investigation has uncovered the full story behind the obscure suit, which was filed without names of the defendants by a company owned by Lively in an apparent bid to avoid detection. Let's continue. Legal experts say the case appeared to be a sham lawsuit, with one describing it as a super shady. Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, told the dailymail.com this appears to be an end around skirting the process to be able to secretly get these documents without having to give anyone notice. That would be an abusive process, and we intend to take all actions allowable under the law. Shady, shady boots. Friedman said he had no knowledge about the lawsuit until the dailymail.com contacted him to ask for comment. Lively's lawyer said that the newly uncovered lawsuit was, quote, common and entirely appropriate, and accused Friedman of faux outrage. Again, you're filing a CRD complaint against this man for harassment, right? Before you even file your CRD complaint, you are filing this bogus lawsuit so that the text messages that were on the phone that Stephanie Jones owned, however, the information was owned by Jen Abel. You do that in order to be able to get this. You get all of this information before you decide to file this lawsuit. And you do it shadily and underhandedly. But here's the thing. It is still legal. It's shady as it wants to be. Because you're trying to run an in around having to have to find this information because your CRD complaint is what you say is paramount. But you only did all of that so that the California Civil Rights Division tells you that, oh, hey, you're okay if you want to sue. What your information that you provided, you're okay to sue. But you do this underhanded stuff. Let's continue. Court papers show the shadow lawsuit was filed in Manhattan Supreme Court on September 27th last year by a company called Van Zandt. The lawsuit accused up to 10 unidentified individuals listed only as does 1 through 10 of harming Van Zandt's business and reputation, but did not specify what they did wrong. It says here, quote, they have participated and may continue to participate in efforts to harm plaintiff, including by failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking action to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that impact plaintiff's business and reputation, and disclosing to third parties, and failing to keep strictly confidential plaintiff's confidential and or private information, reads one of the typical vague sentences. So this is what's in that. This is what's in that shady behind complaint. Nowhere in the suit submitted by New York attorney Samantha Katz does it name any person on either side, allowing the case to slip unnoticed into the legal system. And this is why it's considered to be shady, shady boots. So here we go. They give us a brief insight into this. It says here the Supreme Court of the state of New York, because remember, Blake Lively is suing in federal court. And so she thought that this little trickery with her lawyers was going to work and nobody was going to figure it out. It was figured out. And listen to this. The basis for this is from Van Zandt Incorporated. Now, this is a company that is owned by Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds. Her name on this paperwork is Blake Reynolds, right? It says here the summons. The basis for venue is CPLR 503, and because plaintiff's principal place of business is in New York County. Plaintiff's address is this, and they have gone through and they figured out that this address matches some other companies, I think, if I'm not mistaken, of Blake Lively and her husband. It says, to the above named defendants, you are hereby summoned to answer the complaint in this action and to serve a copy of your answer, or if the complainant is not served with this summons, to serve a notice of appearance on the plaintiff's attorney within 20 days after service of this summons, exclusive of the days of service, or within 30 days after the service is complete, if this summons is not personally delivered to you within the state of New York, and in case of your failure to appear or answer for judgment. And here's the kicker. You can go through this gallery over here with Daily Mail, and they definitely will give you all the things. I'm not going to go through it, but here's the kicker. They filed this motion on September 27th, 2024, and then they asked for the case to be dismissed the day, because they got the information, they got the text messages. They asked for this case to be dismissed the day before she filed her complaint against Justin Baldoni for harassment. They went to the New York Times and gave them they filed the CR, excuse me, I misspoke. They dismissed the case the day before. This case that we see on our screen, they dismissed it. They filed it on September 27th, and they dismissed it the day before she filed her CRD complaint. And they sent a subpoena to Stephanie Jones so that she can give this that there would be a subpoena attached to her giving this confidential information from in regards to Jean Abel. This is just the opinion of Pam Entertainment TV. I don't know these people. I don't have any proof that this happened, but I believe that that Stephanie Jones was pissed off at the fact that Jean Abel had left her, and that Wayfair had dropped her as a client, as a PR publicist. That she sent this information over to Blake Lively. When Blake Lively got this information, she gave it to an attorney. Her attorney said, hold on. We can't use this information. We've got to figure out a way to get this information so it will be legal. And what do? They filed some, and I'm going to say the word, frivolous lawsuit that they knew that they were not going to continue to pursue, just so that they can have a, so when Stephanie says, well, I gave this information because there was a subpoena. Now, I don't even think they thought that anybody was going to go past the fact that there was no subpoena. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting to see what the judge says, because Brian Friedman says he's fixing to raise all kinds of hell about this. But this is going to be interesting. It says the copy of the case summons shows it was dated September 27, 7 weeks after It Ends With Us premiere. The lawsuit accused up to 10 unnamed individuals listed only as Does 1 through 10 of harming Van Zandt's business and reputation, only vaguely describing the alleged misconduct. Just 4 days after the filing on October 1st, Katz issued a subpoena to Baldoni's ex-publicist Stephanie Jones and her company Joneswork, who had recently parted ways with the actor, demanding all documents and communications relating to Lively, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and their companies and Baldoni. A copy of the subpoena, which has not been made public, was reviewed by the Daily Mail. Jones did not object to the subpoena and turned over a trove of private messages between Jennifer Abel, a former staffer at her PR agency who continued working with Baldoni, and crisis management guru Melissa Nathan. Jones had retrieved the messages from Abel's company issued phone after Abel told her she was quitting Jones' work in July. The text purportedly showed Baldoni, Abel, and Nathan coordinating a negative publicity campaign against Lively, even when, even while they were meant to be promoting the 2024 movie It Ends With Us, starring Lively and Baldoni, and created by Baldoni's production company, Wayfarer Studios. In 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 one now infamous text, Nathan wrote, "We can bury anyone allegedly referring to their strategy to deal with Lively." In another, Nathan referred to how they could destroy Lively. After quietly issuing the subpoena, Katz then asked for the Van Zandt suit to be withdrawn without any further action on December 19th. And like I told you all before, on December 20th, Lively formally filed her California Civil Rights Department complaint accusing Baldoni of sexual harassment and retaliation. So they've got a little bit of information about this company. Records show that Van Zandt was founded in 2010 in Delaware, a state notorious for its corporate secrecy. Public records there give no clue to its owner. However, the firm later did business in California, requiring it to file in that state too, revealing Lively is behind the company. Baby. Baby, and here is a look at the notice of voluntary discontinuance without prejudice. So they're not going to bring it up again. And it was dated New York, New York, December 19th, 2024. I don't know what legal implications this has for anyone, but baby, this is a mess. This is a mess. This is a mess. We'll see what the judge has to think about this. I don't know if Brian Friedman is bringing this information in front of the judge or not, but we will definitely see what this reveals. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. What do you think of this revelation in regards to the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni? Honey, this whole case is a complete and utter cluster F. Cluster F. Mm. Again, shout out to Without a Crystal Ball, who is here on YouTube, who helped to crack this case. Shout out to Daily Mail, and shout out to everybody who is reviewing this case and getting this information. Baby, you talk about the stunts, the shows, and the shenanigans of it all. Baby, a mess. All right, people, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you cannot stand that I'm over here making these videos. Because if you tell her, she might leave you alone. And as always, people, bye-bye.